go past the velvet ropes and straight into the VIP with HK.
HK doing it to it in the mix, and Backstage with NF, platinum certified, 3 full-length albums, 1 EP. That's 4 releases in 4 years. You know, a lot of people, I think, probably have come to know you over the past year. It's going to be interesting to talk about the journey.
No, I think a lot of times that's like a new introduction, you know, for people to hear your stuff. But that's what I've said. I have a song called All I Have where I talk about it a little bit, but just talking about how there's so many artists around a long time that no one like heard about, and may even have been popular, and no one heard about them. And then they got on radio and everyone was like, oh, new artist, you know what I mean? It's just like, so I just think it's funny how that works, but yeah, man.
Well, it's funny. That's still the power of radio. Even in a streaming world, you can have tons of fans online and people who are downloading your stuff, but it seems like the awareness factor happens when you're all over radio.
Well, people also think even if you're on radio and you have a massive song that you'll always sell tickets or all those things, or have tons of followers and stuff, and that's not necessarily true either. So it's such a tricky game of like, what kind of fans do you have? Do you have people, or do you have fans? You know what I mean? There's people that'll get number ones on radio and you guys will help push them and they'll go platinum and it's crazy. And then you'll go to their pages and like, it's like no one knows who they actually are. And so that's what's so tricky about this industry is like, it's important, I think, for artists to build a strong fan base. Right. And, you know, if you're working with radio and making sure you're touring and working hard and all those things working together, I think is what really can make, like, you know, a good career happen. So
yeah, absolutely. And a sustainable career when you're working all the pieces of the puzzle.
100%. Because there's like, nobody can say that like radio doesn't help you. Like it does help you. So, and it is so weird now because streaming and all that stuff, I mean, it's probably insane even for people older than me for sure, because, you know, 10 years ago, 5 years, whatever it was, streaming wasn't what it is. And now you look at, you know, all the streaming platforms and everything. It's pretty amazing how everything's just like changed. I mean, how much longer are we even going to have hard copies of albums, you know? We used to go to the store. Now everyone just pulls up something on their phone and does that. So it's crazy.
It was a big deal when it went from reel to reel to 8-track to cassette to vinyl to CD, but it was still...
CDs are probably like insane to people. That's so crazy to think about. Now it's like, everybody's like, oh, I can just go on my phone and download any song I want at any time or listen to any song at any time. It's crazy.
Yeah. The media landscape has definitely had a seismic shift. The amazing thing is radio still has a 93 or 94% reach over all media, you know, print, television, the internet. But it comes down to getting back to what you said previously, which I'm a big believer in any success for anybody. It's having all of those pieces of the puzzle, you know, come together and at the same time, and then trying to maintain it. Keep it going. I gotta tell you, I was blessed some years back to be director of A&R and sole staff producer for Tommy Boy Records. I was living in the studio and overseeing the careers of Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, House of Pain, Coolio, Digital Underground, De La Soul. And back in the day when we were making records then, there were records we made for fun, and there was records that were really, really deep. You have really powerful, inspirational lyrics that touch your heart and your mind, which I think is one of the keys to really resonating with listeners and with fans. What's your process? How do you go about trying to capture that on paper and in the studio?
Honestly, my biggest inspiration is just my day-to-day life, my feelings. Like you said, my music is very deep. I mean, some songs I make, I don't know if I could say I make them for fun, because I'm so passionate, but yeah, I guess passion can be fun. So, man, I just really pull from my personal life, things that I'm experiencing, currently going through, things that I experienced in the past. I always have found music to be very, you know, therapeutic, in a way that I couldn't really describe, or I couldn't really get that feeling from anything else in life. So I think I tell people all the time, I think it's one of the most powerful things ever. Because,
Absolutely.
I just don't, it gives you a feeling like I remember when I was younger, just listening to music and when I started writing music and just feeling like, man, if I feel this way when I listen to it, how would I feel if I actually wrote it myself?
Yeah.
And then being able to, just like going to therapy when you're sitting with someone and discussing, your feelings, it's like musically sometimes, even though it might just be me writing it, and I'm not talking back and forth with a therapist, I'm kind of like talking to myself.
Right.
And so, I don't know, man. It's pretty amazing to.
Which you did very well on one of your previous albums, by the way.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
That whole concept of basically, talking to yourself from the other side. Yeah.
No, man, the therapy session album, and just seeing like, I have a long ways to go for sure, but like, as I want to grow as an artist, but I also want to grow as a person, and so because my music's so personal. Sometimes it's tricky because you have such ups and downs in life and, you don't want to keep writing the same thing, but I've always loved emotional music and I'm a pretty like deep thinker type of person. So I'm always in that battle in my personal life and my career because they're so one. But, it's been an awesome journey and I'm super thankful for all the people that, for the support of radio, for the support of my fans, like everybody just getting behind like what I'm doing and being able to play a show like this. Like if you'd have told me a couple years ago that I could play a show and 5,000 people would come, like that's just crazy. A lot of people don't get to say they did that, so it's awesome.
Let's talk about that for a second because like I said when we started, you've got 3 albums, 1 EP, that's 4 big releases over a 4-year period, but so much has changed in those 4 years. How do you wrap your head around that? And what I mean by that is, when we're doing what we're doing, when you're on, when you're making music videos, you're touring, you're recording, sometimes it's even hard to realize what's happening as it's happening because it's going 100 miles an hour. It's just a blur every day, a different city. How do you just sometimes stop and wrap your head around the fact of, and relish for a little bit, wow, look at where we've gotten in the last few years?
No, I'm actually really horrible at doing that.
So am I.
Yeah, I'm not good at, I feel thankful and grateful, but I don't take a lot of time to like sit down and really think about those feelings or why I'm feeling that exactly. Or I guess I feel it and I think about it, but I don't do it very long. And I have just a lot of the moments for me that bring those things up are like, getting the phone calls about, hey, your song just went platinum. And I just sit there and I'm just like, this is crazy for me. Like, because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, that's great. Yeah. Like, what's next though? I got to keep working.
What's next? That's
the thing, man. I talk about it in a song that I put out called Why, kind of, or maybe I didn't talk about that in that, but I'm just kind of talking.
That's the new single. Pardon me for interrupting.
Yeah.
But in Why, you have this line about how you could work 24 hours a day,
100%.
but feel like you're still not getting anything done.
100%.
And
yeah, man. So. Oh yeah. So I did talk about that. That's what I was relating it to, was the platinum line of being like, Let You Down goes triple platinum. Okay, I guess.
Right.
That's my personality a lot of times. A lot of times I'm like, what's next? What am I going to do next? And my biggest struggle is I think that makes me great as an artist and a person because it makes me work really hard. It keeps me really motivated.
I'm looking at my wife as you say this because you have no idea. This is a therapy session for me now. Go ahead.
No, man. Seriously, though, I've realized that a lot of my biggest strengths can also be your biggest weaknesses, and that's because most people, we don't know, at least for me, I shouldn't speak for most people, but I think most people, they're either way on one side of the line or way on the other side of the line. They might be a lazy person who doesn't want to do anything, or they might be a motivated person who only cares about work, doesn't take any time for anything else, and it's hard to sometimes get back to a line that's like the balance. And that's a struggle I still deal with. I'm just like, especially in this industry, it's very get it while you can.
Right.
Don't trust anyone.
Right.
You could be gone tomorrow. You got to work hard, whatever. And so with that, just that alone, but also my personality, it's like sometimes I just can't. I just don't stop, and it's gotten me where I am. So then you have that fear of like, oh, but if I try to find a balance and I step back, am I going to lose everything that I've worked for? So it's like a huge, I mean, obviously in my situation it might be different, but people have that. That's an everyday life thing for a lot of people, a lot of marriages, a lot of, you know, working people in general.
Even just individual struggle. That,
100%.
You know,
you don't have to be an artist to be like a workaholic who like thrives on working and they feel, you know, fulfilled by like achieving that next goal. I think what I'm realizing is you can create as many goals as you want, but at the end of the day, it's like you got to realize there's other important things as well.
Right.
And so that's just something I'm dealing with. Not to say music isn't important. It's one of the most important things I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
I feel like I was made to do this, and so it's very important to me. But yeah, that's kind of something I deal with sometimes.
The line that you said, thank you for that, the line that you said at the beginning about that's who you are, but you know that's what makes you good at what you do. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a struggle for me. It's a big joke in my office and in our home. Something good will happen, and for about 30 seconds I'm happy, and then I'm letting everybody know, okay, now we need to do this, and this week, you know, and everybody's like just always teasing me about the fact that, you know, and I've told my wife on many occasions, I know it's a problem, I'm trying to be better at it, but I also think that's why we're good at what we're doing.
100%.
You know,
I'm the same exact way. My wife says the same thing to me. She'll be like, hey, calm down, like you just achieved this is awesome, and I'm like, yeah, but like I gotta do this now. And so like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it can be a bad thing depending on how bad it is, but I think it would be good sometimes to just sit down and do that. But I think what does make us great or people like that is
always being motivated
and thinking about that next thing that you're gonna do. As long as you are, you know, if you don't take any time to feel grateful or thankful, and I know every artist does that, but that's why I do thank my fans, because the 5,000 people showing up here today, it's like they heard something that I made and felt, you know, impacted enough or whatever the word is to come and see me perform what they heard, and that's like a pretty powerful, cool thing that a lot of people don't get to say or whatever. Something that I worked really, really hard on and started in my parents' basement when I was little has now brought me to a place where like thousands of people want to hear it. And so that's just something I don't want to grow old and be like, man, I never took 2 seconds to just like thank those people or like live in that moment. That's my biggest thing, I would say. I need to live in the moment a little. Right. And I'm always like, I kind of suck at that sometimes. Yeah. But I also live in the past, and I'm always worried about the future, so I don't really know where I live. So. Well,
next time we get together, I'm going to ask you how you're doing on it, and I'll tell you how I'm doing on it, because we both need to work on that. Now, I've seen, you know, from previous interviews, you know, you've talked about your influences and stuff you would listen to when you were getting started. So we're not going to go down that road. But what I am curious is, because of something you just said now about when you're, you know, in the basement of your parents' house, when was the day you woke up and you thought, okay, you know what, maybe I can make a living at this?
I don't know, because when I was that young, I don't even know if I understood what making a living meant exactly, just because I was so young. I think I was like 12, 13-ish. I think I just reached a point where I was like, I loved listening to music so much, and like I said earlier in the interview, I was like, I just want to try to do it. And I sucked so bad. I was recording on a karaoke machine in my room. I actually had a tape. Yeah. You could put a tape in the karaoke machine, and then I would put I don't know if I put a tape in the karaoke machine, but I would put a tape in the CD player that I had. CD player thing. It had a tape. Whatever you call it.
Let's think about that for a second. You put a tape in the CD player thing.
Well, you had wait. You had a CD player on the top of it, but you could also put a tape in the front of it.
So the CD was probably, I never had a karaoke machine, but I bet the CD was probably playing back the karaoke tracks, and the cassette would record if you put it in record mode?
Yes. Yeah. So I had two.
We're going with that.
No. This is literally what I did. I just can't remember all of it. I would take one of the microphones and put it up to the speakers of the CD/tape player, and I would play the beat through that, so that microphone would record the beat. I would have the other microphone recording as well, and I would record my vocal through that one. And so then it would all record on a tape.
Nice.
So I had like tons of tapes. I would record like the weirdest stuff. And I started to feel like passionate about it. I was like wanting to actually go somewhere and record. And then as I got older, I would just spend all my money on recording. I started making my own beats. My mom got me this program called FL Studios.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I illegally got the program. It was like some CD with a passcode on it. You know, I wouldn't have had the money to buy it, but I used it.
But you actually had a CD with it on it. You didn't get like from a BitTorrent site or something.
No, it was like a CD with like some code on it. I mean, I didn't even really understand it all. So I made my own beats for a long time. You got
your Fruity Loops on.
Yeah. Yeah, my first album, or I don't even know exactly what was released with the beats that I made, but I just made a lot of my own beats and, you know, did my own thing. And then I started recording. I would like be sweating bullets because studio time was like, at this one studio was like $40 an hour, which I know is like cheap to a lot of people, but that was like all my money. So I'd go in there with like $80 and I'd be like, look, we got 2 hours. I just remember my
that's what it's like when you're in the studio paying time.
Yeah, one of the producers I was working with, he was a really cool guy, and he was like, one time I was stressing him out so bad. He was like, look, I'll give you like 25 minutes for free. You just need to calm down. I was like, you know, I didn't have any money, but I wanted to do it so bad, and I'm thankful I, you know, kept at it and kept working.
Yeah, I'd say the end result worked out pretty good for you.
Yeah.
All right. Perception hit #1. Let You Down went #1. Lie is busting up the charts as we speak. How does that feel for you right now, while you can take a second and not worry about what you're going to do 3 hours from now?
You're gonna relate to this response. All it does for me, well, not all it does, but mostly what it does for me is just put more pressure on me for the next album.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I didn't feel that way, but I do. That's just the honest truth. And I'm thankful that I got a #1 on Billboard, but I got a #1 because the timing of when it came out, in my opinion. I'm not like downplaying the record sales, but you know, I sold like 55,000 records, which is great nowadays.
Right.
So I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just saying, like, I'm a negative person, so I think about everything like that. I'm like, one thing I do, maybe
it's not just me.
maybe you relate to this, but I also talk negatively about how things might happen, and I think I do it so if they don't happen in a positive way, I'm just like, oh yeah, I expected that to happen. Like, I'll be like, I don't really know if people are gonna like this album. It's kind of weird. It's kind of different. And then if they don't like it, I'm like, I think I'm telling myself, oh yeah, well, I kind of assumed that.
Right.
When the truth is, I probably would still, you know, it would probably bother me. But that's the way I do it.
You'd rather be surprised that it performed better than you thought.
Yes.
Than expect it to be great and then be let down by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I like positioning myself mentally that way.
Yes.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, I never like to be like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I never like to be like that. I mean, sometimes I will be excited about something and think that, but before Perception came out, I was like, man, is this like the worst album ever? Is this going to do well? And that's because I'm so hard on myself mentally, where I'm just like, I'll listen to something over and over and over, and I'll be like, oh, this could have been better. Why didn't I do this? Do I like this? Is this good? Is this, you know what I mean? And that's what gets tricky too. As you get bigger, all these people watching you, and you're just like, you know, sometimes I try to put on the front of like, why talks about that too. Is like, I don't care what anybody else thinks, lies. I don't need nobody to help me, lies. Right. It's like all these things, it's like, I'm always trying to be like, I don't care what anyone thinks. And in some ways I don't. But then there's other areas where I find myself being so caught up in like what everyone thinks. And that's the trick nowadays, man, with millions of people hearing your stuff, commenting whatever they want about you personally and about your music.
How you look, what you say, how you say it.
Yeah.
Everything.
So that's something I'm trying to learn to navigate as well. When I first started getting certain comments like that, and a lot of my stuff's positive, my fans are awesome, but you'll get random people that are just like, oh, this sounds the same, or oh, I hope he doesn't go this direction, or things like that, and you're just like, stop talking and just like, if you don't like it, don't listen to it.
Right.
Tune into
something else.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're so cool on the internet, like, and just say whatever they want. And I get it, some of it's like young kids who just don't know. But it's just like, I don't really feel the need, and I don't even know if I did that when I was younger. It's possible, but I just don't feel the need to go on someone's page and be like, you're trash, you suck, you're never gonna go anywhere. It's just like, I don't understand that thinking in the world today of like, why does someone even feel the need to do that?
Yeah.
Like, if you were gonna comment something negative, why wouldn't it just be like, personally, this isn't my favorite.
Yeah.
But whatever, you know what I mean?
Or like maybe if you had another, hi-hat on that eighth note, but something that was concrete versus.
That's something like
just,
artists.
Right.
I'll show my wife songs and I'll be like, you hear the difference? And she'll be like, no. I'll be like, my least favorite process of writing, or like like recording and everything is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
But my least favorite thing to do is mixing. Because I'm such a freak about it that I'm just like one volume could be wrong and I will just like freak out and be like, we need to do this, we need to try this, we gotta, and I don't like change. I hate change. So if I hear that something changed, I don't like that.
When I'm in the studio, I'm literally like changing things 1 dB, 2 dB.
Oh yeah, and it makes a difference though.
Yeah, and
it makes people.
And I'll hear it, and I'll have engineers go to me, below 2 dB, most human ears can't even hear, and I'm like, give me.
No,
I
here's
need
the thing.
1.5 dB at 4K.
Here's the thing.
I drive people crazy.
Here's the thing. People can get really technical. Like people like you and me might get more technical. Like we might be like, oh, the hi-hat's louder or this or that. You may show that to someone, and they may not know exactly what's different. But
they can feel
music. Yes, they can feel the difference, and that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Right.
If you put more reverb on a vocal, it could make someone feel completely different than if you had a dry vocal that feels like they're sitting in the room with you having a conversation like we are right now.
Right.
And that's what I love about music, because not everyone knows that or realizes that. But those are the things that give you a feeling, those slight volume adjustments, reverb, dry vocals, things like delays, things like that. Those are the feelings that people are feeling, but they don't know why they're feeling them. And I love that.
Yeah, I call those the 1%ers when I'm in the studio. It's like 1% here, 1% here, 1% here, and by the end of the mix session, it has a totally different feel or an impact on you. It may not have been something drastic in one area, but it was just 1% here, 1% there, 1% there, and it changes the whole.
You have to be careful with that too, because you can be such a perfectionist that you never do anything with what you have. So like, if I was such a perfectionist that I never thought anything was good enough to release, I wouldn't be where I am. So I found a little balance, but sometimes people are such perfectionists and they obsess over certain things to the point where nothing ever happens.
Right. That's crippling. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I call paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, you don't put an album out because you're like, this,
Now, one of the keys in producing is, as I'm sure you know, you reach a point where you say, it's good enough, I have to walk away from it. There may be 50 more things you want to do to it, but you have to move on.
Well, you also sit with it way longer than everyone else. Let You Down was recorded like the week before or the week after Therapy Session came out, my second album. So I had that song for a year and a half before anyone heard it. I could have been like, I'm sick of this song. I think artists can make that mistake, is you make new songs over a period of time, and then you're like, those new songs feel fresh, and then the old ones just I don't know. But you know, I'm glad I kept that song. I always loved it. So
yeah, well, that's I think we're all happy you kept that song. All right, with touring, writing, and being so entrenched in your own music, do you have time to listen to other artists? And if so, who are you kind of digging right now?
Honestly, when I'm working on my own stuff, which is what I've been doing, I don't really dig into too many albums, like specifically. Every once in a while, I'll listen to something just to like have a vibe or something. Yeah. But I don't really. I try to like focus on my stuff as much as possible, just so I don't get too influenced by something or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I probably wouldn't say a specific artist this time.
All right. One last question before I let you go. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about the music business so far?
The most surprising thing. I feel like it's nothing like what you think it is going into it. That's the most surprising thing I would say. I think when you're younger or people that have dreams about doing this, I think you have a different idea. You know, from the outside, here's what I would say. Maybe when I was younger, or maybe I wouldn't have thought this, but I'll just say this. Because I'm a negative person, all those things, I struggle with a lot of depression and things like that. And being on the road and just the pressure that you feel, it's such an awesome thing, but at the same time, there's the other side that I feel like unless you're experiencing it, you don't really know how to describe it. So like when I said I wanted to be a rapper when I grew up, my idea of what an artist was or a rapper was, I think was way different. Like my idea of touring was like, I'm gonna be on a bus someday, go around, do all these shows, it'd be so fun. Well, there's so much more than that. Yeah. so much more. It's like it's a lot of work. That would be a surprise thing that I would tell someone, like, look, if you're not willing to work hard, you're gonna be in for a world of hurt. Because before I had my own bus and was able to eat whatever I wanted on the road or whatever, I was riding in a van, you know, doing tours, getting paid $1,000 for the entire month. And I was also part of the crew hauling stuff in. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And even before that, I was doing like the worst shows you'd ever heard of, doing shows for nothing. Yeah. And on that tour, I was even doing shows for 10 people some nights. Yeah. And none of them knew who I was or cared who I was. So I would just tell people, it comes back to that way we started the interview. It's like a lot of people think this person's a new artist or whatever. But if you really dig down in a lot of artists, I think a lot of them would have stories that you just wouldn't even believe. Of like, I used to sleep on the floor of random people's houses when I was on tour because I wanted to save that extra $25. Right. Instead of us all trying to get a hotel room.
Yeah. Just the daily grind of what it takes to get to that 100%. Level of success. Yeah.
And you have to learn on all the things I learned on the way of just like being smart, you know, trying to hire the right people to work around you. Yeah. You have to work with people in this industry. At least I did. I got to a level where it was like, I got to hire a business manager. Well, it's like I held off on those things as long as I could because I don't trust anyone. And so that's the struggle too. If you got trust issues, get ready for this industry because a lot of people don't care about you. They just care about what's good for them. Yeah. As soon as you got to realize that. It's a sad truth, but you got to realize that and try to make decisions. Like, I'm very thankful for my team that I have, my manager and my business manager, because I think they actually care about me as a person more than, they have tons of money. They're fine, but they actually care about me as a person. And that's what you need to find, I think, as an artist and a person in this industry. So.
Well, there you go. Perfect place to end. Words of advice from NF. Hey, man, so good to sit and talk with you.
Dude, thank you for your time, man. Thank you.
You just got mixed, shaken, and stirred by HK.